Judy, one of the barriers to fitness that we're talking about is time. Have you got any experience of how that has affected you in the past as well?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think it's the thing you hear women talk about most as being the barrier. I just don't have time. And you know, when you think that we're all juggling work, family, and so many other things, it doesn't have to be lycra and pain and the gym. It doesn't have to be like that.
I like that. I feel like a lot of us feel like if we don't get a full hour session in from top to finish, we won't bother doing it.
I have found ways to adapt to whatever I'm doing during the day, whether I'm in the house, whether I'm outside, to fit in something that lets me have a bit of physical activity. You could make your own playlist, favourite songs, and dance around the kitchen. If you don't have ideas of your own, you can go onto Nuffield 24/7 and find an enormous amount of ideas to follow. Doing something a little and often is better than doing nothing at all.
As part of the Healthier Nation Index, we found that almost 60% of people that were surveyed found that motivation was a huge barrier to fitness for them. Every day I struggle with motivation and have to fight with myself to do that exercise when I need to. Have you found that yourself as well?
I think for me, I can always sell myself the reason why I should do something, and that's why it's always good to have some kind of target. My grandchildren are a motivation to me because I want to be able to chase after them. I need to be able to get up and down like a yo-yo to pick them up, and I recognise that I have to put the work in. If I don't feel particularly motivated to go and do something, I have to just keep selling it to myself, and I switch the music on. Otherwise it can be a little bit of a grind. The music will keep me company.
I think it's great that you mentioned almost having an enabler. That's what I need sometimes. So just having somebody to do that exercise with that you almost let down if you don't turn up that day to do the exercise. 32% of adults, as part of this survey, recognise that they just don't know where to start. And again, that's something that a lot of us can identify with at whatever journey we're on.
You know, everybody was a beginner once. Taking that first step and asking someone who already does it or who works there. There's so much information online. I mean, whether it is a piece of equipment in the gym or whether it's what is a Zumba class. Ask a friend if there's a friend who already does it. Can you go along and watch for a bit and buddy up?
I think a lot of us look at the end product. So if I can't play tennis, which I absolutely can't, but if I look at the end...
I know a good coach.
I think sometimes I look at the end product of tennis and I'm like, well, I can't do that. So I just don't put myself out there to start learning it. You're absolutely right. We need to look at the smaller parts of that, how to actually do that movement before looking at the bigger picture.
Spot on.
Another barrier to fitness that we've been looking at is confidence, and it's been shown through our surveys that a lot of women find embarrassment as a big barrier there as well. And sometimes I think that's where people come from a place of not knowing what to do, but also presuming that other people might be judging them when they are doing something. So perhaps presuming that other people are watching you while you're working out and judging what you're doing. Whereas we found when we've spoken to some of these people that they're actually very much focused on what they're doing themselves. But have you ever found that you've become embarrassed, or you know of other people that have been embarrassed in exercise?
Yeah, a big time. I think women especially, confidence is usually the main barrier that stops them from taking that first step into trying something new. So I think that's all wrapped up into the fear of the unknown. Finding out as much as you can about what the activity or the exercise or the sport is going to demand of you is one thing. That fear of being judged because you're either not wearing the right clothes or you're not very good at what you're doing, who's going to be watching. I think for women that's a massive thing. I had to actually go and Google a Zumba class to find out what it was about. I had to ask how many people are there, what do I wear? Don't worry if you go the wrong way in Zumba, which I regularly did, because all the people who've been doing it for a long time, they were me once.
Yeah, so for yourself, a lot of that is preparation so that you don't put yourself into an environment where you'll feel uncomfortable. And so whether that's doing exercise at home to start with, or to women's only clubs, or just somewhere that you feel that you're in a comfortable environment as well. One of the barriers of exercise that we were looking at are things like life events, and that's something that I can definitely identify with. You know, I'm an ex-professional dancer, I've suffered injury and had almost like a huge emotional well-being crisis because of it. And I think you identify yourself with your ability to be active and be physical, and it took me a while to come around to thinking that I needed to adapt what I was going to do. Is that something that you found before as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think, everybody has had situations through their lives where things have changed. Your body changes, your situation has changed, but what can my body do now? Might not have been able to do what it used to do through injury, through childbirth, through menopause, through whatever. Let's find out what can I do and start off slowly and build up. Don't give up on your exercise because you've had a life-changing situation.
I think sometimes we don't realise that when we go and do that physical activity, we're just taking time for ourselves. We can still take that time at least to look at ourselves and look after our emotional well-being and just have some thinking space as well.
Me time is incredibly important for our mental well-being, and we often underestimate that. If it's something that keeps you physically and mentally on top of yourself, in a good place, find a way to make it happen. Don't let anything put you off.